Well, hello there. Welcome back to the Lost Love Stories, where we share the beautiful, messy, real journeys of love and loss. I'm your host, Pam Baker, and today I have my friend Liesl Dana joining us to share her story with her son Finn, and she's going to just show us that all the ways that love continues way long after loss. So, Liesl, I'm just going to have you come on and we're just going to have a
All right.
conversation and just share a little bit about yourself. Tell
Thank
us where
you.
you are and your background, and then we'll just get into your story with
My
Ben.
background. That was a part of a listener. Okay.
I know.
Um, I'm Liesl. We live in Roswell. I grew up in Atlanta. We've been in Roswell for 22 years. After our older son Jack was born, and I'm my husband Scott and I, and our younger son Finn was born in 2005, and he passed away in 2015,
Mhm.
right after his 10th birthday. From should I say? I
I
mean,
go ahead. Mhm.
he basically had it was called an AVM, and it was basically an aneurysm that we had no idea was something. It was a malformation. It's got a aorta, aorta malformation. That's not the right word. I can't think of the first word. But basically, it was people can have them. You don't know that you have them. It's a malformation of the vein in the aorta. And when it presents itself, depending on where it is in the body, it can be fatal. And his was at the base of his skull.
Mm.
And we had no idea, no reason to ever think that this was something that he had. Of course, we had Jack checked afterwards, and we were told that if Finn had survived, that he would have basically been in a vegetable state.
Oh.
So,
Mhm.
you look at that and the quality of life is not there. So, but we had Jack checked, and the neurologist said if we had ever had a reason to check Finn, they probably could have done something about it.
Wow.
So, but yes, so that was it was yeah.
Yeah. So, we're obviously you're in Roswell. I'm in Roswell, so I remember that day, that time. Um, you want to walk us through what that looked like?
Okay, so it was a snow day from school, and it was play practice. It was right around the time of the mountain park play, and I was supposed to drive our neighbor's daughter and another friend's son to play practice that afternoon. And all the kids, we lived in a great neighborhood where all the kids played together constantly. And so Finn went, and Jack was actually over at a friend's house in the neighborhood across the street, had spent the night there the night before. And so I was doing work actually for the lacrosse board, the middle school lacrosse board, and was sitting at my dining room table. And actually, we were talking about this last night. Finn left to go over to our neighbor Teresa's house. To all the kids were sledding and playing over there, and I was sitting at our dining room table, and he was at the far side of the table, and he said, "Mom, does this look like I'm really going downstairs or an escalator?" And he did that thing where you're pretending to go down,
Yes.
and that was very him.
Uh-huh.
And then he walked out the door, and I can see him walking out the front path, and he waved goodbye, "Love you."
Mm.
And then I went downstairs to do work in my basement, and Teresa called me and said that he came in and had a headache. And so I came right over. I was in pajamas, and he was lying on her kitchen floor. And so we
Oh,
did CPR. I've never told the story to anybody. Scott doesn't even know it. We did
wow.
CPR. She called an ambulance. We rode the ambulance to the hospital. They worked on him. I kept thinking, oh, we're at the hospital now. I'll be okay. And it wasn't. So,
Wow. Wow. Yeah, and just I have to imagine it was obviously terrifying because you don't have any idea what
I, I
happened.
remember Scott came into the waiting room at the hospital and, which I don't ever drive past North Fulton Hospital anymore if I can avoid it, and, when I do, I flip them off.
Yeah.
Their fault, but I guess,
Yep. Mhm.
that's the anger that stays with you.
Totally. Yes.
But, he came in and he said that his brothers he's from Oregon, and his brothers were both still living out in Oregon. He said his
Mhm.
brothers were coming out, and
Mhm.
I looked at him like, "I don't understand why." Like, he understood the severity before I could grasp
Oh,
it. I mean, it was
wow.
before we knew that he was gone,
Yeah.
but he said, "My brothers are on their way," and I was like, "What?" and yeah,
Wow.
so
So brutal. So brutal. Thank you for sharing
thank
that.
you.
I
Sure.
know that's horrible and hard. Um, well, we were just talking before this started about, all the people and the rallying, and of course, when there's a child, I mean, I felt the rallying of the town and the city of Roswell when John died, and as an adult. And what was that like? What was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody kinda came out. So the play was that weekend, and I don't know what happened with Seussical and Finn's part. He was a Who person or a Who parent, and, we had, sort of like kind of the stab you in the heart, somebody had brought over or we got a copy of the program, and I had completely forgotten, but I'd done, like, one of the little ads in the back, and so the Who's and Seussical sing the "We Are Here," they're doing the chant, like, "We Are Here," and so I did a thing that said, "Finn, we are so glad you are here."
God.
So,
Oh my
yeah,
god.
but, in the Jewish faith, they do Shiva
Mhm.
for 7 days after a death, and, I was saying to you before, I think that we're not particularly religious, more culturally so, but my friends Michelle and Leslie sort of rallied the troops and just sort of gathered up and organized this week of people coming over and, um, food being delivered and, our neighbors, the Crotos and the Roberts, I mean, Jamie was there every morning making breakfast, and just
Wow.
people were just there, and having seen it with other people who've lost people, and I don't know what it was like when John passed away, but there's something to be said being surrounded by a community, and
Mhm.
community of people that you're not alone, because that first week is so shitty.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always shitty, but, like, that first week when you can't sleep at night.
Right.
Jack My parents stayed at our house. I mean, they live in Atlanta, but they spent the night every
Mhm.
night. Scott's brothers were one of them stayed at our house. My neighbors opened up their homes to have family members stay at their house. They were out of town, but they said, We're leaving a key,
Wow.
have your family," so they didn't have to stay in a hotel,
Mhm.
so they were close by and not have to worry about a car or anything.
Yeah.
I think my brother slept on the couch,
Mhm.
and Jack slept in our room, and just, people came over. I think about it, I'm like, I wish that I had had the strength, I'm sort of a people pleaser, to
Yeah.
kind of do what I wanted and to go into our bedroom and go to sleep if I wanted to, because that would have been totally fine, but I
Mhm.
didn't, so I felt like I was sort of constantly entertaining. And Suzanne and Mara used to always laugh that, like, they were gonna create a trap door, so as soon as they felt like somebody was, like, I was consoling them, they would push a
Mhm.
button and the person would disappear, because that does happen.
Yeah,
Um,
totally. Mhm.
but I do think that, you do that for a week, and Jews bury very quickly, so he passed away on a Thursday, and Sunday was the funeral.
Wow.
Um, and the only reason it wasn't Friday was because they were allowing time for people to come in town.
Mhm.
Um, and then, I mean, the synagogue was filled, I think, and then they had the funeral at the synagogue, and then everybody went to the graveside, and my neighborhood totally rallied and set up. My other neighbor, Beth, had set up, like, luminaries, so that when
Mhm.
we came home from the cemetery, the whole neighborhood was lit up.
I love that.
So yeah, sorry, it's like
No, don't
always
apologize.
right there.
I
But,
know, it is there. It's so interesting because I feel like you can tell the story 100 times and number 75 will hit you and the others don't. Like, you just don't know.
yeah.
You
Well, I
don't.
always tell people when they, like, look at you, you said before, like, people stop talking or they don't ask or
Mhm.
whatever because they're worried about upsetting you or
Yeah.
whatever, and I'm always like, "No, it's always, like, literally on the right under the surface, even when you don't know it's right under the surface, it's
Yeah.
right there,
Yeah.
and it just is, it's
Mhm.
okay, I'm glad that it is.
Yeah.
You don't wanna be numb to
You'd
it.
rather exactly, you'd rather have the chance to have a good cry and feel the heartache than to have nobody recognize that they ever existed.
Right.
That's the trade-off. It's like they didn't exist. You just carry on, and that's not good. That's
So
not good.
part of my story that you may not know is that I had an older brother that died when he was 8,
Oh, wow.
from we were in a car accident in Scotland.
Oh,
So my
wow.
parents had the fortune of getting to live through this twice, basically, losing a son and then losing a grandson, and I had always just sort of kept the number 8 in my
Mhm.
head as, like, a year to watch out for, so the fact that, like, both my boys made it past 8 and then Finn died at 10, I was like
You
yeah,
like
which
feel
obviously is
very
stupid, it doesn't mean
no,
anything.
but you can see how that would be a normal, reaction, a normal, defense mechanism of
Yeah,
protection. You can see that, totally. Wow.
so
How old were you when your brother died?
I was 5,
Wow, and you
about
were
to
in the
turn
car?
6. Oh, we were in the car, we were in Scotland,
Oh my god.
and he was in the front seat on my mom's lap, and it was 1977, and nobody wore seat belts, and
Oh my
yeah,
god. Wow.
so, yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea. That's brutal.
So,
Oh.
yeah, so yeah, I don't know, but so Shiva, I had a friend from high school who probably 3 years ago now, her she has twin boys,
Mhm.
and one of them was nonverbal autistic,
Okay.
and he was like this gentle giant, and
Mhm.
um, he passed away,
Ugh.
and so she called me, and then all these girls from high school I went to a private WASPy school in
Mhm.
Buckhead,
Uh-huh.
called the Jewish girl who had lost a child and were like, "What do we do?" And
Uh-huh.
I've said this when Laura's son passed away,
Mhm.
just don't leave her, like, just always be around, I think it really helps. I mean, even after Shiva was over, Mara and Suzanne came over every day, and we'd go for a walk, and we'd hang out until I kicked them out of the house
Mhm.
during the day and was like, I wanted to just be able to cry by myself,
Yeah.
watch TV, do whatever, and then get myself together. We didn't hide any of this from Jack, but I
Mhm.
didn't want him he was in 6th grade. I didn't want him to grow up in a sad house.
Right.
And so I tried to get everything sort of out. We were always been very open,
Mhm.
but to get it all out so that when he came home, we were not miserable on the couch
Yeah.
crying.
Yeah. Because you hear about that and see it happening too. I see that in the widow world too, where you just stop living
Right.
and there's a I mean, with my kids being of their ages when John died, it is like you do have to I felt you don't have to. I felt I had to strategically pick my meltdown periods, and it was
Absolutely.
in the middle of the night when everybody was sleeping, so I could just purge it all out, feel like
In the
I'm
shower.
yeah, in the shower, and it's not like ignoring it, it's just strategically choosing
Right.
when to release. You have
I
to
just realized that, and you probably the same, realized like Jack's growing up is a finite time. And
Mhm.
I didn't want to my whole thing was I'm gonna win grief kind of in my brain.
Yeah.
We'd gone to counseling and I read all these different books and I was like, you have to face it head on. So I'm gonna do grief the best I
Uh-huh.
can. I'm not gonna ignore it. And then, the surprise ending that I don't ever tell anybody until they've reached the 1 year mark is surprise, it's still there after a year. It's like,
Sure.
oh, guess what? It doesn't go
Mhm.
away. Like
Yeah.
after a year, I was like, I'm done with therapy. Like it's not gonna
Mhm.
for me personally, it was not like I was trying to figure out how to, like, OCD, get through something, I just
Yeah.
it's not gonna change anything,
No,
so
no, I love someone and I think I've said this on this podcast before, but I love, someone, in my widow group actually, she's a beautiful writer, and she did this really beautiful post and part of her reflections of losing her husband. It was like it's like grief is like an ocean, and in the beginning, it's like the waves, it's like a storm. The waves are crashing, 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 and as time goes by, the waves still hit. There's just time
yeah,
in between the hits, the pounding isn't quite so boom, boom, boom. Spreads out, spreads out. They still crash, they still hit you, they're still there.
right.
It's just the time between the crashes.
Well, Scott and I were talking about this thing and the Finn doing the walking down the stairs thing, and I'm just telling him, and I'm kind of chuckling about it, and he bursts into tears,
Mm,
because he's thinking about it. He wasn't even there, but
mhm.
he's thinking about it and,
Yeah,
that whole thing, so,
yeah,
um yeah, but, so I think that so what happened with my friend is that I said, "Don't leave," so it ended up inadvertently setting up Shiva for all these,
mhm.
like, sort of, like, these buckhead
Yeah.
women over, and I was like this one friend who was sort of spearheading it, she set up, like, 2 months worth, like, a whole calendar, and I was like, "No, no, 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 like, 2 weeks,"
Yeah,
because Libby's gotta, like, start getting on with, like, getting out
yeah,
of the house and doing her things, and she's gonna want to.
yeah.
And she's got to be able to do that, but if that initial time, but I remember I would go over to her house at the beginning, and she would just lie down in the middle of the living room floor and take a nap with everybody around her, and I
Wow.
loved the fact that she
That's
felt
amazing.
comfortable that that
Yeah.
was what she had to do
Mhm.
at
Yeah.
that moment.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm more like you, as you know, and so I was the same, like, tending to everybody and making sure everybody's good, and I don't think I could even do that, like, on the couch. I don't think I could.
No, I would sit there and
Who needs something?
make conversation, people would come in, it was like I'm having a party.
Mhm. Yeah. You're the host.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, right, right.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my god. I was recently, at someone's 1-year, memorial of their husband, and I didn't know him because she's in our group. I didn't know him, and so someone, came up to me and said, how did you know him?" And I was like, "I didn't. I know her through this group," and I explained it, and she was like, "Oh, our kids were, our friends, so we're there for them. We've been there, we're taking care of," and she said, you know, "What," to your point, she said, "What else should we do?" I said, "That's exactly what you should do. Just don't stop.
Yeah.
Like, be there."
Right.
Because everybody inevitably does go back to living their lives and goes back to just their
Time is
they
really
need to, and they have to, and we want them to, but
right.
then you tend to be forgotten once they do. They're like, "Oh, enough time."
Time is really kinda mean.
Yeah. Mhm.
'Cause it keeps going on and, and we want it to, but at the same time, like, you look back and
Mhm.
you're like, "Wait, hold on, that person."
Mhm.
But I was gonna say about my parents, so someone told my parents when my brother died, like, "Always talk about him,
Mhm.
don't shut it out." And so
Mhm.
I grew up always they always talked about Brent, and
Yeah.
we refer to Brent, and there is definitely uh before Brent died, like a
Mhm.
milestone stone marker and things like that. And um, so, I freely talk about Finn, and I actually a lot of times find that I age him when I'm having a conversation.
Oh,
Like I'll say, oh, like I'll talk to somebody, I'll be like, oh, well, oh, he's Finn and so's age. So somebody who is, so I know he's not, but I'll put him still with those peers.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
I
and
love that, actually. I love that
yeah,
because
I
it
don't
is.
know. I just kind of again, I'm not, like, pretending like he's there,
Mhm.
because the flip side is that we do still talk about the fact that, like, he isn't, like, obviously he doesn't get to
Mhm.
age. Thankfully, most of the real painful milestones are sort of
Yeah.
past, and we'll never see him get married and things like that, but,
Mhm.
like, it was 5th grade farewell,
Right.
and then there was, like, like, all the high school or middle school, all those things, college.
Mhm.
Now, people, they spread, and you don't
Yeah.
really hear about things anymore,
Yeah.
so
So in your face all the time.
right, exactly, so it's less so that way, but, yeah, I actually, but I did make a note about something. It was about, I can't even read my own handwriting anymore. Oh, well. It just that sometimes we talk about, we're like, we wonder, like, where he would've gone to college, or
Mhm.
what kind of person would he be, or what would he look like now, and that kinda thing.
Do you have those kind of conversations with Scott?
Yeah, occasionally, which is kind
Yeah.
of just sort of like, we'll look at something and we're like, I wonder if they would, because I still equate that Finn would still be friends with the boys that he was good friends
Oh,
with.
totally. Yeah.
By high school, he may not have been.
He may not have
He
been.
was not a sporty kid, and he
Mhm.
didn't care. So
Yeah.
the kids who went on and played lacrosse and did those things, he might have not been.
Yeah. I mean, I see that for sure with Duncan, with all the kids he was with, and then I thought about it at homecoming, actually, with all the pictures. The lacrosse kids were all taking the pictures. Football kids were, and Duncan's not playing on a team right now. And I was in my heart, I was like, "Oh, it's so painful. All these kids he's been friends with his whole life, and he's not even in the pictures." And of course, he ended up being in the pictures, but they were doing their things first. But I was like, my
Right.
Duncan literally like, "Mom, this is not a big
I
deal."
don't care.
But I don't care. But to
Right.
me, it's that same thing. But to your point, they do go off in their little clusters wherever, it's not elementary school anymore.
But we do think about the fact that he must have made such an impact, because we've had kids reach out to us. One of his best friends, last year, the year before, texted me out of the blue, got my number, and he goes to Georgia Tech, and he
Mhm.
said every year on, I don't know if it's on Finn's birthday or on his anniversary of his
Mhm.
death, he goes to the cemetery.
Oh, wow.
I never go to the cemetery. I
Wow.
don't wanna think that he's there, not that I'm again, hiding it, I just don't wanna ever feel guilty that I don't go visit a place.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's with us
Mhm.
mentally, spiritually, whatever.
Right.
So I don't ever want to feel like I went this past summer because I was with my parents at a funeral, and it was at the same cemetery, and it
Mhm.
was close by, and Finn's buried next near my brother. My
Oh,
parents my dad went out, like, the next day and bought plots for
oh,
Scott and
wow.
Finn and I,
Mhm.
basically adjacent to my parents and my brother's plot,
Oh, I can
and,
love that. Uh-huh.
so we were at the cemetery, and my I said, "Do you wanna go over there?" And my parents were like, "Sure," and I never like, I hadn't
Uh-huh.
been probably in 6 years.
Oh,
So,
wow.
I don't that's not a play to me, that's just not where I want to feel like I have to be with him.
Mm. Right.
So, but when this young man reached out to me and told me this, and then we had this past spring, there was, like, the banners on the in the neighborhoods, the high school so our neighborhood did, like, also included college kids, and so this other boy who was friends with Finn got our number from Jack, reached
Uh-huh.
out to him on, like, Instagram or something, and said that he'd seen Jack's name on the banner for graduating from college. Didn't realize we lived in the neighborhood that we lived in. His family had, at some point in middle school or high school, moved to the neighborhood sort of across the street from ours,
Uh-huh.
and he wanted to come over and visit with us. And then
Oh.
he showed us a tattoo he got of a shark fin for
Mhm.
Finn.
Oh, wow.
Then another neighbor's son who was his good friend got a huge tattoo on his chest. I was like, "Brian, you do not need" like, he told me ahead of time. Remember in 4th grade, I don't know if your kids had Miss Navarra, they did
Yeah.
the penguins,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah,
he
like, the sock things?
the little sock
Yeah.
penguins?
Uh-huh.
He wanted a picture of Finn's penguin, and he had the penguin tattooed with this whole quote on his chest. So
What?
I feel like I was like, "You're 18, like, don't this is
Yeah.
the rest of your life, this is
Yeah,
permanent,
yeah.
like, whatever." And he's like, "No, I want to, and my mom knows, and it's okay." And
Mhm.
I was like,
Mhm.
Alright, like, that's
Wow.
wow, very touched, like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
there's things like that that I realized, like,
Mhm.
he hasn't been left behind. We would see at grad parties, some of these boys he was friends with, they always came up to us, they always said
Mhm.
something to us, they always made an effort,
I
if
love
somebody at
that.
another school who went to Sunday school or camp with Finn
Mhm.
came up to us at a party once and was
Wow.
like, "You're Mr. and Mrs. Dana, right?" And I was like, "Yes." And he goes, and he told me his name, and I was like, I would have never recognized him. And he's
Wow.
like, "I just want you to know I think about Finn." So,
That's
just
impressive for boys too, teenage boys to be doing that. That's
yeah,
impressive. So that
yeah,
really, to your point, is really an impact made,
left an impact, yeah.
really. Yeah.
So,
That's awesome. You got a tattoo, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah.
I got a Lego heart
Yeah.
tattoo
Oh,
in front of here. How best to show it.
yeah. I
My
know. I
bracelet's falling
time.
on it. Anyway, so a
Yeah.
Lego heart with his name.
Uh-huh.
Scott got a Lego brick with his name.
Uh-huh.
And then Jack, after his freshman year of college, got his Hebrew name tattooed on his bicep.
Oh, that's cool. That's
So yeah, so that's very cool.
I love that. Do you, what other any other things you've done, like, to commemorate or recognize moments? We were talking about, you know, his birth and death dates are so close to one another. Um,
Like on
things
his birthday, we try to have cheeseburgers for dinner, which is
uh,
kind of silly, but that was one of his favorite foods. So we do that. Um, Jews, you light a candle on the anniversary, the yahrzeit is called, of the death, and so I tend to do that, um, but I don't do anything else about, his,
mhm.
uh, you know yeah.
Yeah, it's weird, right? like just John's 4th year anniversary was a couple weeks ago, and it was, all of the Facebook posts, I felt like I was very, reflective and eloquent in the recognizing of the day on
Mhm.
year 1, year 2. I don't know what year 3, year 4. This year, I was like, I don't know. It was weird. Just was like, I don't know. It was very brief and not, it wasn't reflective. I'm like, I don't know where it was a hard year for me. And the kids weren't here. Duncan was here, but we had done Chinese lanterns. We did water lanterns. We did something each in the first couple years to
Mhm.
recognize it. And then I was just kind of here by myself. And it was just like, I don't know. It feels weird. Like, do you do, I don't know. I had so much second guessing of myself in the way I was recognizing or not recognizing the
Because
day.
also there's that feeling of like, "Well, then I have to keep doing something? Do I need to
Yeah.
keep doing something?" Like, um, I bought those Chinese lanterns one time right after Finn
Mhm.
died, and we were gonna do them somewhere at the beach. And it was
Uh-huh.
too windy, we couldn't do it, and then I wanted to do them at Lita Thompson, and Scott
Yeah.
was like, "What if one of them blows into a tree and kills one?" So he actually was so freaked out by them that he made me throw them away. He
Oh
was
my
like
god.
because we set one off in our yard one time, and it
Uh-huh.
flew straight towards a tree, and he was like, "We can't." He was, like, totally freaked out, like,
Uh-huh.
things are gonna catch and I was like, "Alright, forget
Yeah,
it."
we did that one time too at the lake at our lake house, and, it was, like, for Gavin's birthday or something long ago, and the same thing happened. One went right into a tree, and we're like, "Oh my god!" So you do
What do we do? Oh my god. Right, I was like, "How do I explain to people this?" So I just yeah.
Yeah,
So
beautiful idea, however.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah, yeah,
For the first couple of years, we used to always light, like a big candle and things like that, and, yeah, I mean, now I just do, like, a little yard site candle
mhm.
and,
I like that. I like
yeah.
that. It's very, like, beautiful, simple. It's like the Day of the Dead. I love that whole
Yeah.
concept too, just like
At our synagogue, they read your name on the
mhm,
anniversary if you want them to.
mhm,
We're not members of our synagogue anymore, but
mhm.
my parents, I'm sure, still go
Yeah,
on that day. I mean, they go all the time, but for that purpose and that sort of
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, it's
So,
weird because it becomes like one of those things where you don't it's like what we were just saying, you don't want other people to stop talking about them, but then you also don't wanna stop I don't know, it's like recognizing their birthday or recognizing their death day. It's such a weird and I don't even know what ever to call it, the anniversary of their death or their
we
death
call it
anniversary.
yurt site. That's what Jews call it.
I like that.
The
I
yurt site. Um, yeah, and it's kinda like, for the longest time, I wanted to do something. I felt moved to do something, but we didn't have a cause. We didn't have an illness. We didn't have a reason that we could raise money and
right.
do whatever. And I will say, like, there is something at the early years, you kinda think, "Oh, I'm gonna always do this." But it's not that it peters out your interest of it, but it's sort of like if there's not really any purpose, like,
Yeah,
again, like raising money for to for
right.
research of something,
Mhm.
then it's sort of, then are you
Yeah.
stuck and then you stop doing it and you feel bad and then,
No, there's so many complicated emotions, but I kinda just decided this year with my whole thing is, like, if I'm not feeling it, I shouldn't force it. If I'm not
that's
fee
exactly right, and I think that you have to allow yourself. I think that's part of it is
Mhm.
that not feel guilty.
Yeah. Yeah, which is the hard part.
Right,
Yeah.
right. The birthday especially, I
Mhm.
feel like if I don't do something, then I feel guilty about it, but then I'm like, "We made dinner," like
Yeah, we're not gonna do it just to do it, just to say we did it, to check a list
right,
or whatever,
right,
because that's
right.
not honoring them either, in my opinion. It's
So I don't know if I mean, your kids were younger, Beanie and Duncan were younger than Finn, but I don't know if you ever saw the library. They did the mural. We did the mural in the library, and we still have the Finn outside. They repainted the mural this summer. They painted
they
over it.
did. Oh my god, I was wondering if it was still there.
So, you think it's gonna always be there
Mhm.
forever.
Yeah.
The teachers who are there are like, it's always gonna be there as long as I'm
Mhm.
there.
Yeah.
And I happen to know the principal, the
Mhm.
new principal of Mountain Park
Okay.
from my work.
Uh-huh.
And just again, I'm not a religious person, but I think about this and I think maybe this was like a little like wink. Randomly went to get my nails done
Mhm.
over the summer. I don't remember when it was. And I ran into her at the nail salon and we were chatting. And I said, "Oh, are you working this summer? Like, what are you doing? Whatever." And she's like, "Oh, yeah, we're at Roswell North because they're renovating certain things at Mountain Park." I said, "Oh," I said, "Not the library, of course, right?" And she's like, "Oh, yeah, actually, they're painting." I said, and then I said, "Is it gone?" And
Oh my
she's
god.
like, I think she realized what she sort of walked into,
Yeah.
and she's like, "I'm going straight over." She was done with her nails. She's like, "I'm going over there right now." And she texted me and she's like, "Everything had been painted except that corner."
Oh my god.
And
Are you
she took pictures of it and which I think I had pictures
yeah,
somewhere,
of
but she
course.
took pictures of it and she sent them to me.
Oh my god, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I
Wow.
mean, and as Scott said, he goes, "Who's there that
Yeah.
knows him?"
Yeah.
Nobody. And
Yeah,
the outdoor furniture, because his idea was, wouldn't it be great to be able to eat lunch outside and then you play
mhm,
longer? So we
mhm,
donated money and they put outdoor like picnic tables and stuff
uh-huh,
on the playground so that
yeah.
kids could do that and called it the Finn. And at the camp that Jack and Finn went to, we donated money that they redid some outdoor water luge thing and they call that the Finn.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
so I assume these things are still,
Mhm.
I assume the playground and stuff is there because why would
Yeah,
they get rid of the
right,
outdoor patio, the picnic
right.
table and stuff like that? But
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
So,
Oh my god. Um, yeah, I remember when they did that, that was so amazing. I loved going in there and just seeing that. I haven't been in there in years, obviously, because 'cause they're all
neither did
gone.
I. Mhm.
Mhm. Crazy. That's crazy that you ran into her, but oh
I
my
mean,
god.
and just the timing of it that they literally she's like, "I've been out of town, let me go check." And when
Mhm.
she came back, she texted me, she's like, "Everything was painted except for that corner."
Oh my god. That's so crazy.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. Um, well, let's shift gears a little bit. Um, when you lose a child, it's like having children with illness. It's like all the things that can make or break a marriage.
Mhm.
um, some people don't survive that. And I know that you and Scott are amazing together. So
Thank you.
how did losing Finn impact you? How did you make it through? What were the ways that you just managed to come together versus having, because there's a lot of anger, I'm sure, just anger at the world or anger at whoever you can be angry at for this.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely were lucky because we didn't have the anger towards each other
Mhm.
because there was nothing either one of us, I make offhand comments occasionally like, "Oh, well, obviously my body did something when he was in utero and it didn't something did not connect properly," which is a whole 'nother side story from when I was in high school and I learned about DNA and cell structure and thinking about how crazy it is that everything comes together perfectly. I actually had that thought in high school
Oh,
that
wow.
everything comes together perfectly and how
Mhm.
amazing that is. And then this happened that this one thing was off. And
Yeah.
anyway, so we didn't have that. We were lucky. And we had also always, some of the stuff we had read or talked about with a therapist was about like, you have to accept that people are where they are in the grief. So
Uh-huh.
there were times when I would be sad and I would be cry in front of Scott, or other times when I wouldn't because I knew he was not in that moment.
Yeah.
And so there's times when he's upset and I kind of can hear him somewhere and I don't go to him because I'm not there and I don't want to be there at that time. Like I'm
Yeah.
happy and I'm doing my thing and I don't
Right.
need to. Um but I don't know, I think we kinda turned to each other, and I have another friend who had lost a baby, years ago, and she had said that they just kind of turned to each other, and so, I don't know if that's what we did, if my parents had set an example that they had survived
Mhm.
doing it as well, if Jack needing to raise Jack was
Mhm.
something, but it never it didn't cross my mind ever, you'd have to ask him. I don't think it ever crossed either of our minds that we would there was nothing to be angry with each other about how things were handled,
Right. Yeah,
you
I
know?
think that, well, obviously, that's a really good thing. It wasn't somebody missed something or somebody was not watching him when he was
Correct.
supposed to be or what have you. I just know that, human nature is to take all your angst and anger and everything out on the person that's closest
Right.
to you. And that's what I think so many couples, families do in general.
Yeah.
And, I mean.
No, I think we definitely have a similar sense of humor, a similar way so I kind of became sort of snarky and I refer to people who have more than like you have spares,
Yeah.
more than one,
Mhm.
more than 2 kids that they had spares and, things like that, and, not that honestly, like our other friend,
Mhm.
just because you have multiple kids, A, doesn't protect you from which is something I think about with Jack all the time, like, it doesn't ever protect you from living through it again. I really had the thought that my parents had lived through this, so therefore, it wasn't gonna happen to us, but who of our friends was gonna possibly lose a child?
Mhm.
And I had that thought when my kids were young, like, who
Wow.
would be the Shears of this generation?
Yeah.
Never once thought, "W my family's already had it, so it's not our
Yeah.
turn."
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Wow.
I don't know, just I think we have similar, sort of outlooks. Scott definitely went much more, non-religious, I guess is the
Mhm.
best way to put it.
Mhm.
I did not embrace religion either, and for whatever reason, I sort of felt which is sort of false. I wrote a whole thing that I never sent to our rabbis at the time, but about why I don't like going to temple, why it brings me pain. And I think it's because I stupidly sort of held this sort of thought that like I'm doing all the things that I'm supposed to do.
Yeah. Mhm.
And honestly, nobody's out there really looking out
Right.
for you, telling you like because I do get really angry when I see those posts on Facebook where people are like, "Oh, thank you God for saving my child for Boa." Well, where was he on February 26,
Mhm.
2015?
Mhm. Yeah.
Where was so I don't think anybody's out there watching you trying to
Right.
decide whatever, like, as my uncle said recently, we're talking about something, He said when, a hurricane comes or a tornado comes through and flattens the whole neighborhood except for the one house, and that person's like, "Thank you, God, for sparing my house." Like, look around you, read the room, like,
Read the room. Mhm. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so that we did differ in certain ways like that, where I still was sort of embracing a little bit of religion, not really in a
Mhm.
helping. I don't know. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I sort of still spiritually feel like there is some sort of maybe chance or way to be connected after
Yeah.
death, an energy, whatever it is.
Yeah. I like
That I don't know that Scott feels that way.
That's
And I
really
can't be finite like
yeah.
him.
I believe that too, but I had the exact same thing, speaking of the spares, when the boys were diagnosed with CF essentially at the same time, and they were my only 2. We'd always planned on having 3, but then I was like, "We are having 3," because the chances are not great for my kids to survive past me. And it was that whole spare mentality, honestly, even way back there, just because of cystic fibrosis, it was the same. And I was Catholic and I lost my religion. I hadn't been practicing Catholic, but I was very angry at God.
Right.
And
Why? Why
yeah,
both?
like one I could justify. The second one, I was like, fuck off. You can,
Right.
yeah, yeah,
And I also always hated the expression like, "Well, God only gives you as much as you can handle." And I remember reading that and things like afterwards and being like, "Oh, so if I was just a little less capable."
yeah. If I was weaker, this
Right.
wouldn't happen to me. Yeah.
Or, what's the other one that people say that I always hate? Oh, like, "It's all part of the plan."
Yeah.
The fucking plan.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't sign up for that plan
Yeah. Mhm.
because
Yeah.
that totally derailed my plan
I had
and
a
the
plan.
rest of our plans, So, yeah.
Uh-huh.
That's not part of the plan.
Not part
But, I mentioned, when I was telling you the story about the mountain park library, I never really thought of it as sort of like a wink or like a lucky sort of
Mhm.
I just was like, "Oh, great, fantastic, whatever." But as I was relaying it, I was like, "Oh, maybe,"
Mhm.
I always wanted to say that I could look for signs and look for
Mhm.
whatever,
Mhm.
and I just never saw them. And my friend who lost her son a couple years ago, the son, she truly believes in that, and she feels like
Mhm.
she sees JP and things all the time, that he
Yeah.
is right there with her. And
Yeah.
so I want to embrace that, but I called her the other day and I was like, "I gotta tell you this story." So
Mhm.
we've just moved and, we used movers to move, like, the big furniture. Like,
Mhm.
we're, in our 50s, but we're like, "We're moving the boxes, I'm not
Yeah.
paying somebody to do that." I
No.
hired 2 high school seniors to move all my work stuff from the basement of the old house to the 3rd floor of the new place.
Oh god, yeah.
So, I'm
Mhm.
not doing that, but, like,
Yeah.
boxes, clothes, whatever, we're doing it ourselves. So the movers came, and I'm walking through the house with the sort of the lead guy, and I'm talking about what we're moving, and so we get to our bedroom, and I said, "You know what? We didn't have a ton of, like, big stuff they were moving." So I said,
Mhm.
because he's like, "This is not gonna take very long." I said, "Go ahead and move our bedside tables. Like,
Mhm.
wrap them up."
Yeah.
So I didn't prep them. Scott's bedside table is an old table from my grandmother that I'd had for years because I needed furniture when I was, like, in my 20s. It's like a
Yeah.
marble top, wooden antique table, whatever. I mean, we do not
Mhm.
have matching furniture, like, in our bedroom.
Uh-huh.
Um, and my bedside table was a bed like a wood cabinet that Scott gave me years ago that the boys' handprints are probably, I think, on the back, whatever. It
Oh
has a
god.
drawer. And in the drawer was all sorts of junk. Like,
Uh-huh.
I kept I had like stuff from when Jack was in preschool, maybe a
Mhm.
medicine bottle, some probably used Kleenexes, some nail
Yeah.
file, just
Yeah.
junk like that, chapstick, whatever.
Mhm.
Um, and like some papers, but nothing that I really was aware of.
Yeah.
So when they moved it, I didn't realize they dumped everything from that drawer out into a box in my room.
Okay.
So the first night we're staying here, I go to get in bed and I open the drawer to get my chapstick out and the drawer's empty. And when I say empty, like completely empty. So I was like,
Okay.
oh, that makes sense because they were wrapping it up. They dumped it out. The only thing left in the box in that drawer was a note that had been like gotten stuck under the lip. So it
Mhm.
stayed. And it was a note from Finn asking the tooth fairy to leave his tooth.
No.
That he'd lost his tooth, but could the tooth fairy please leave it. Love Finn.
Oh my
And
god.
I thought, like, Scott was half asleep, and I was like, okay,
Mhm.
this has got to be like, this is the sign. Like, it's okay. We moved.
Yeah.
Like, you're talking about, like, leaving the house.
Yes, yes.
This is the sign for me that I'm like, it's all peaceful. It's good.
Yeah.
The other house is just a vessel that held
Mhm.
our family, and the memories still go with you. You
Yeah.
don't lose all of that by just changing your location.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that because I believe in that stuff, and I see signs from John all the time, but I think if you look for them hard enough, they're there,
Right.
see 'em in all different things. I mean, even in Jacksonville last week, and it's you could call it silly and stupid and whatever, but we had an Airbnb, and there was in the dining room, a picture of Jacksonville Beach, which is JB, of course, and in the corner of the framed print was JB, and it was, like, in the font that he used as his business logo. And my mom actually noticed it first. She was like, "Look what's up there." And I was like, "Ooh." And I'm always like, "Hey." I just say, "Hey, honey." You know,
Yeah.
my sister and I went to Vegas a couple weeks ago for her birthday, and John's favorite number was 7, and the flight was 777. It was 2 days after the 4-year anniversary of his death, and I was struggling, and it was 777, and then our baggage was on carousel 7. I was like, "Okay. I
Got
see
it.
you. I see you. You're here. You're
Yeah.
with." Yeah,
Yeah.
and so I look for those, but I love that, and, we talked about that a little bit, the whole idea of leaving, and I think probably so many people, I know a lot of women in the widow space too, the idea of leaving the home that you had with them is such a big, big, big decision, and, we talked about that a little bit, but if you wanna share that whole process.
Yeah,
Mm,
it was hard. I mean, it started 2 years ago when we thought we might move, so we packed a
mhm,
lot of stuff up and purged a lot of, like, books and things like that, and so I will say from just, like, a moving standpoint, I recommend starting a couple years early because then we never unpacked. When the other house fell through and we took our house off the market, we never unpacked the boxes. And so
Oh,
for 2 years, I felt like we were sort of in limbo, and we
mhm,
renovated our bathrooms thinking, "Anybody needs to buy a house, our house is on the market." No, but, like, we renovated our bathrooms because we thought we were gonna stay, and then where we wanted to be, something opened up, and so we were
mhm,
able to move in there, which is great. And I always loved our other house, and I still well, I'm not gonna say I still do, because when I walk in there now, it doesn't feel like our house anymore. Like,
uh-huh.
I'm really detached from it. Like, they've
Wow.
repainted some things, and they
Mhm,
staged some furniture and stuff like that. The bones of the house, the structure of the house is exactly the same, and it's a beautiful house,
mhm,
but I don't it doesn't it's not my home anymore.
right.
And it's surprising that it very quickly flipped that way.
Yeah.
And, I don't yeah, I don't know. It's just, yeah, it was an easier
Mhm.
new chapter than I thought it would be. I
Well,
also more recently have had keep having this thought of, like, when something sort of slightly upsets me, I'm like, "Well, it's not bringing him back."
mhm,
Like,
uh,
staying in this house or not staying in this house is not changing Finn's fate. It's not
right.
bringing him back in our life. So,
Mhm. Well, and
it's
you could have, like you said, his bedroom is gonna be his bedroom. It's like a encapsulated moment in time
right.
that is just standing there and almost kind of probably making it harder in a way
Well,
because
and
oh,
God love Scott, he cleaned it out. I mean, over time, for probably 2 or 3 years, because his birthday was the end of January, we had done, like we never did this. We always hung so I grew up, my dad in our kitchen growing up, on your birthday morning, you came into the kitchen and he would have strung up birthday signs, like
okay.
corny, hand-drawn
Mhm.
signs, "Choo, choo, choo, it's your birthday," like,
Uh-huh.
silly signs, whatever, and we did that for our boys.
Mhm.
And so Finn's last birthday, for whatever reason, we did that too, but we had hung streamers up in his door. So over his door, so when he opened the door to
Oh,
that
yeah, yeah.
morning or whatever, he would walk through streamers. They probably stayed up for 2 or 3 years after he was
Oh,
gone.
wow.
We just never took him down, and his room just stayed sort of the
There.
same,
Mhm.
and not a shrine, we just sort of closed the door,
Mhm.
and occasionally we'd go in, or I'd hold whatever.
Yeah.
Scott, to his credit, he slowly would take time and he cleaned it out.
Oh,
And
wow.
if he sold his bunk bed, he would say to me, he's like, "Why don't you go somewhere? I've got somebody coming over for a little
Oh,
bit."
wow.
And I would leave the house so I wouldn't see the furniture leaving.
Wow.
So the room's actually been empty, other than
Mhm.
like now sort of storage
Mhm.
for the last couple of years. So it's
Okay.
not even been like a shrine or a memory to him. Like it's
Mhm.
been empty, and it became like where some boxes were.
Mhm.
But we have in our garage now, because we have some storage there, we have boxes of Finn stuff,
Yeah.
and I'll leave it to Jack to deal with it later on. I mean, there
Yeah.
was stuff that came in after he died from the classmates,
Right.
from the school, from friends, from whatever. We have bins of stuff, and I don't go through any of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I can see that, but it is such a weird thing. I haven't like John's closet is still his closet, and I know some people clean it out right away. And my kids still like to go in there and they'll grab a shirt or a flannel or a t-shirt or
yeah, that's
his
great.
whatever. I just want it available to them, so it's there if they want.
Right.
And it is. I don't know. I don't need the closet. It's not. I don't
No.
go in the closet and same. I'm not like sitting in the closet crying and
Right.
seeing his clothes. But uh, as long as the kids want to go in there and grab a
Yeah.
shirt or something, I just I'm fine with it being there, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Mhm.
I think that's
Yeah.
lovely.
Yeah. Okay. I thought of something that I hope that this is very impactful for me. I just remember seeing it so vividly, and it's something that I have a love-hate relationship with, and I love Facebook memories. I love Facebook memories.
Hate them,
Um,
hate them, hate
I
them.
you know what I really fucking hate is the time hops when they're like, "Time up to this," but I remember
And they do one, and
yeah,
then the other one's blank because they don't have
you're
anything
supposed
new
to
to
be
put it
updating
with.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and you're like, "Can't update it. Thanks though
I
for
used to
reminding
hate
me."
the Facebook memories. I'm now 10 years, almost 11 years out.
Mhm.
I don't really get very many that pop up anymore that
Uh,
are from that long ago.
oh, wow.
It took
I
a while, and I never would share them. I would never click on them, and I think that the algorithm slowly stopped also showing
mm,
them to me.
that's interesting, because I say that because I remember the one that you posted that was brutal.
Which one was that?
I think it was Finn at the beach, and it said, "Finn is in heaven," and that has stuck with me. I don't remember how long ago it was, but
No,
I
it
was
was
just
the
like,
summer we bought the beach house also, yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
was so
like,
hap yeah.
dabbing.
That was probably 20 when did we buy the beach house? 2013, so maybe 2 years before he died. Yeah.
Wow.
I have a way with words, don't I? Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, glad you're here, and,
Mhm.
we're so happy you're here and you're in
Yeah,
heaven, yeah.
yeah,
So you were talking about before, like, I think it was about like doing things to honor John on the anniversary and your posts and things like that. So I don't really post a lot anymore on those times only because I don't want to then not that I go on Facebook very often, but you when you do post something, you kind of go on to see what people are commenting or
yeah,
who likes it or whatever. And people who say they don't are bullshitting you, and
mhm,
everybody does because it's
totally.
that adrenaline or whatever that's called, the endorphin
Yeah,
but, I decided I didn't want it's like when our dog died, I was just like, "I don't want that pull to go look at this,"
mhm.
and then it just keeps reopening the
Oh,
wound.
yeah, yeah,
So I don't do that very often, but there had been times closer to when Finn died where I would be angry at, like,
mm,
everybody else in the world, and
uh,
so I'd be like, "You're all, like, posting your best life. Let me fucking drop this truth bomb on you."
mhm,
And I would do something that was sort of like whatever, like, in
yeah,
your face,
yeah,
and I don't know, I just so that you talk about, like, the anger and stuff, I
mhm,
splashed out other things out there,
yeah.
you
Yeah, that
know?
makes total sense, though. It's so hard to keep that too when um, you just comparing it again to losing your husband, when people are talking about and my husband was shitty sometimes, but when you hear people complaining and, all of the things like, "Rah, rah, rah," and he's an asshole, and, you know, I I actually had someone say to me, and I just met her, but she obviously didn't like her husband, but this was me saying, "Oh, this is she's one of my widow friends," and she was like, "Oh my god, I wish I was a widow." And I was like, "What?" Yeah, like, it was me and Lori standing there, Lori Robinson, and we both looked at each other like, "Did she just say that out loud?" Like, "Oh my god." Yeah, that's when you wanna lose your mind. That's when you're like,
No shit, well, it's funny, my friend Jennifer, she said when I don't remember this, but somebody else, I guess, posted on Facebook totally nothing to do with me. Like,
mhm,
about her own kid, was complaining about her own kid,
mhm,
and Jen said she's like, she saw that post and she wanted to be like, "What the fuck?" Like, Liesl
yeah.
just lost her son, like, who's complaining about their child no matter what?
Don't
Like
complain about anything right now. Yeah,
right, like,
yeah.
so that's
Mhm.
so interesting, like, so was it someone who was in your widow group? Oh,
Uh,
no, I
it was
guess
a friend
wasn't.
yeah, it was a friend someone in my group had a friend and we saw her out,
Oh,
um, on Alpharetta Green or something, and she introduced us. That's how I was like, "Oh my god, like, are you kidding me?" Yeah, it's crazy.
That's when people have absolutely like, I wonder if she went home and she was like, "Wait, what did I just say?"
I
Or
doubt
are they
it.
just completely clueless?
I don't get the sense that that was something
That
they
was not gonna be her MO. Wow.
no,
Yeah,
no, no. Um,
crazy.
all right. Well, any other thoughts or tips? I mean, losing a child is freaking brutal, and it sounds stupid to say you. I don't want to say you've done it with grace. You have grace about you.
Oh,
You
thank you.
you've maintained a great spirit and obviously a great marriage and a great relationship with Jack. And I think that people struggle with those things. So if you had advice to people who have lost someone and especially a child? Like what do you think is something you wish you knew before?
I don't know about something I wish I knew before. I definitely think that thank you about the grace comment. I definitely think I allowed not the same as someone saying they wish they were a widow or somebody complaining
Mhm,
with their child, but I allowed like, I didn't understand when like, Scott would get angry if he saw somebody post something about, like, their dog died, and I'm
mhm,
like, It's not the same, but everybody has their own level of, you know, it's their issue, it's
mhm,
their whatever," and so I always tried to allow it to sort of not affect me, like,
mhm.
"Okay, it's not the same."
Right.
And I've lost a dog since Finn died, and
Yeah,
that was horrible, I hated that,
yeah,
but it's not the same,
not the same.
and, um, but so I appreciate that. I don't know, I'm just trying to think if there's anything, like, that like, words of advice other than, like, yeah, I guess what, at a year mark, it doesn't
Mhm,
it's still there, and the
yeah,
grief is always right there, you know, underneath,
mhm,
and I looked at your list and I was like, like, the human moments, and I said
mhm,
to Scott, I was like, "What?" I can't think of anything that, like again, I'm not canonizing Finn, but, like,
mhm.
I can't think of things that, like, anymore that are
Yeah, and
so
there's a definite difference when you were talking about a child, like, I could talk
no,
about
but I mean, like, he
asshole.
complained about shit, and he was a
Yeah.
pain in the butt sometimes too, but,
Mhm.
he was I always thought that he should have been, like, the middle child, like, we should have had a
He
3rd
had that
because
vibe. Mhm,
he totally did, and he was like I always used to call him our little ham sandwich, and he
mhm.
would, like, make us kinda like the whole thing make us
Yeah.
laugh and trying to make us laugh, and Scott talks about how he remembers watching something with Finn, and they were laughing, and s and Finn was laughing, and he looked over at Scott to see if he was laughing too, to see if they thought the same thing was funny, and
Mhm.
Finn definitely understood things the way Jack couldn't, like, Jack's very black and white, and Finn
Yeah.
had understood inference and would watch something and get things kinda quicker than his brother, and Jack's very, like, sort of, like, math smart and sort of black and
Okay,
white
yeah.
smart, and Finn was he would get off the bus and he would walk and read his book, and
Uh-huh,
he loved to read, and so the librarian at Mountain Park absolutely that's why we did the stuff for the libraries because
uh-huh.
she saw him every day. He came
Oh,
every
wow.
day before going to the bus to get a new book, and, like, he
Oh my
just
god, I love that.
loved that, and so,
Mhm.
Jack, who I'm, like, still at 23, I'm like, "Did you read the" wanna read, um but, and the Legos and all those things, he
Mhm.
just loved all that, so but, advice? It sucks,
It does suck.
but time, unfortunately, kinda scabs over,
Mhm.
and that's just, I think, what happens, and you don't have a choice. It's either that or Scott always says, "Growing old is a privilege. Don't ever complain about growing old because it's a
I
privilege
1000% agree with that.
that
I
not
think
everybody
about
has."
all the time. Yeah, I think about all the time. It's not for the faint of heart, as we know as we're getting older.
Yeah.
However, neither is dying.
No.
So,
No.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it is a
Somebody
absolute
recently was like a friend of mine is turning 50 next year, and she was like said something about not wanting to turn 50. I said, "Well, the other alternative is that you just don't age. Guess
yeah,
what?" And she's like,
that's
"Oh, no, no, you're right, you're right."
yeah,
So it's
perspective. There's
yeah.
perspective. Yeah,
Um,
perspective.
but I'm just trying to I'm looking over my notes that I
Yeah,
made
anything we
before.
missed, you wanna add?
I'm trying to
Any
see because
Yeah.
right, is there anything that I wanted to say about how I talk at the bedside table? Of course, I can't read any of my handwriting now. Um And I don't know if you knew this, at Mountain Park, they also I don't know who did this, I know they still do this, but somebody set up the Fendana Award,
No, I didn't know that.
and I don't know who did it. Stacy said it was anonymous. I don't know if Stacy did it. I know that IO still does it because I've gotten emails from,
Uh-huh.
like, her saying who won it, and it's awarded to
Mhm.
actually, I'm gonna read this because I found
Okay,
it the email from the 2nd year, and I wanted to, remember exactly what it was. So, Findano Award winners, one boy and one girl are chosen from the 5th grade as being examples of kindness and friendship to all. And they give them a
oh,
certificate and a book, and
mhm.
they pick
The book. Oh, that's
I
so
know. And
perfect.
they give them some book that I don't know who picked it, and they've never told us who it is. I don't know where the money comes to buy the book or whatever,
Mhm. Oh,
and they still do it, and it's and nowadays, like last year, I think Rachel Merrill texted me with she knew who the family
mhm.
was and was like wanted to introduce, whatever.
Yeah.
I think Lindsay Coates's child won it one year, and when
Oh,
she happened
cool.
to randomly meet us, this is a couple years ago, she was like, "Oh my god, I've been wanting to meet you. Our son won the Findano." So I
Oh, wow.
love the fact that like his legacy has been
Mhm.
to people that he was kind and
Right.
he
Mhm.
stood up. I remember one time to Jack's friends on the bus because they were kind of bullying somebody else, and so he stood up to the kids that were 2 years older than him that he knew,
Yeah.
and he'd grown up with in our
Still,
neighborhood, but
but
he stood up for people. He always was just like a good friend,
yeah.
and so I love that that's how he's remembered and was a
Mhm.
good person, so,
Yeah.
you know
What you that's just beautiful. That's perfect.
right,
I
like,
had no
nothing to
idea they did that. That's so great. I love
yeah. So it's nice, yeah, now that nobody knows who he is over there, but,
Mhm.
yeah,
But
yeah,
they when they know they can meet you ultimately, that's very cool.
yeah.
And I'm sure they tell a little bit about him. I mean, they're to make their a point of
I think Stacy did. I just never knew him, so I don't know that what she says or
mhm.
doesn't say. I think Stacy did because she knew him,
Yeah.
and I think Andrea Navarre still has pictures up of him in the
Mhm.
classroom and things like
Oh,
that.
wow.
So, not pictures, but whatever. So uh, there are people there. Our neighbor actually a year or 2 ago, her daughter had Andrea, and she told me, they moved in years after Finn had passed away, and so the girls had no reason to know that Jack had a younger brother or anything like that.
Right.
And I mean, because one's in high school and one's in middle school, so that's how much younger they
Yeah.
are. And she said, "You know how, your teacher talks about Fendana? That was Jack's brother." And they were like, "Oh," like, just kind of
Yeah. Like
resonated, and so she
yeah.
still talks about him, and so which is
Yeah.
really
I love that. Mhm.
you just don't want as
Yeah.
a parent
Yeah.
and as a wife, you don't want your loved one ever forgotten.
Right.
And so
Mhm.
Scott talks about kids that he grew up with that died in car accidents or whatever when he was growing up. And he recently thought about somebody and he looked up the parents because he wanted to, when we went out there, to
Wow.
reach out to them to know that he still has thought about their child. And the parent had passed away. But like, it just was, I think that is what I think lasts is you don't want your kid completely forgotten.
Yeah, and I think that, I never thought about this until you just said that, but, that's probably a big part of the grief too,
Yeah.
is is
'Cause everybody was wanting their kids learn how to drive, and they go to college, or they go to homecoming, and they do all of those milestone things that nowadays are so out there because of social media, and, yeah, you don't
yeah.
my cousin just passed away, he's older than I am, a couple weeks ago, and he had said to me at our house sometime after Finn died, he said, "Nobody is completely gone until the last person who knew them is gone." And that I've always sort of carried that in my heart
Mhm.
because I think it's true, for everybody, like anybody, you know? John is not gone until the last person who knew him is not there,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
that's true, and
So,
that's goes back to the point of really, really still talking about them and sharing the stories so that,
yeah,
the next generation will know, so Jack's kids will know who
yeah,
Uncle Fun is. Yeah, like,
so
it's important, it's important.
my big fear though is that, because I do personalizing gifts and stuff like that,
Mhm.
I've never had a baby Finn. Like, my
Oh,
fear is that somebody is gonna move into the neighborhood with a
uh-huh,
child named Finn or what I don't know why, but and now at my work at the CDA, one of our awesome volunteers. He and his wife had a baby a year ago, and the
Mhm.
baby's name is Finley.
Oh,
And so
wow.
at first I was like, I mean, it's great. They're a
Mhm.
great couple, happy for them, whatever. But I was like, oh gosh. And then when we were cleaning stuff out of the house and taking stuff out of the attic, I had this like step stool that was like one of those wooden step stools. It was like a step
Yeah.
and then like a whatever. And someone had given us that when Finn was born, and it was hand painted Finn on it, whatever. And so I texted Marshall and I said, with a picture of it, and I said, would you want this for your Finn? And
Oh,
they know about us.
mhm.
And he was like, I would love that. He's like, thank
Oh, I
you.
love
Like,
that.
and so I was like, at first I was like, because Scott's like, what do we need this for? And I'm like, you're right.
Mhm.
There's a lot of things like that that you have to sort of
Yeah.
like let go. Like, this was his whatever. Like, I
Mhm.
won't let go of the Legos. We have bins of Legos, and I asked Jack, and Jack wants them. So
Well, yeah,
they're not
because his kids can play with them, and that's the
exactly
perfect
like
gift.
right.
Yeah.
But like, anyway, so but when we gave it to him, his wife gave me a huge hug and she was like, "We are gonna love this." And it was all worn. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
worn and paint's worn
Yeah.
up. She's like, "We love this. We cannot wait for our Finley to use it." And to, hers
Well,
is a
in a sense,
Finley, but they
it's
call him
giving
Finn.
that thing life again, it's giving that step stool life, you
Right.
know,
Right.
back, and
And then
I
maybe they'll say, "Oh, we knew somebody who gave us this who had a little boy named Finn." So,
mhm,
yeah.
yeah.
Can I show you a picture?
Yes, please.
So Scott found I can't find the one that I really wanted to. I love that one of Finn
I'm
and
glad I
Scott.
her. I love that.
And I
That
love this one of Jack and Finn when we were in Israel the spring break before,
oh, wow.
he died. I guess it's
Oh,
like
I love it.
so
Oh,
and Getty, and then
Judy.
so we have those out, and then this one of me and Finn. No, it's I
Oh
can't
my
don't have it.
god, I love that.
So
He's so adorable.
he's my yeah. So,
Mm.
but like you said hi to John with the picture.
Mhm.
So now when I go into my drawer, I'm like, hi, I
Yep.
gotcha.
Yes.
So it's
I love
nice.
he's there. He's there.
Thank you
Well,
for
I
this.
love this conversation. I know it's so hard and it's hard to share and it's hard to talk about. It's important to talk about. But I just love that getting to know him better.
Thank
I've
you.
sort of peripherally around while, when he was younger, but
Real quick, I know that we're wrapping up, but
mhm.
I didn't ask you because I'm curious. I'm always curious about other people. So were y'all part of the play? Like you were part of the Mountain Park community when
Mhm.
he died? Like I've
Mhm.
never heard what that how that went down. Like how
Yeah.
people found out.
I remember hearing initially when it happened that day, that I remember I was told it was a sledding accident that he hit a tree.
That's what everybody
And
thought.
yeah, and then, found out the truth, and it's still not knowing exactly, like, did the hitting of the tree cause it to happen or whatever, and then ultimately finding out, but that's how I don't remember how I heard or where we heard it from, but just yeah, that it was a sledding accident. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people thought that because it had been a snow day and they'd been out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Prob-
what would you think some random aneurysm would happen? Yeah.
Probably everybody then made their kids wear helmets for years afterwards sledding.
Probably. Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Not a
But
bad idea, but yeah. Yeah, my kids well, Jake was really into the play, obviously, and he loved that stuff,
oh
but
right.
he didn't get as much into it, but
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Anyway. All right. Well,
Well,
thank you.
he's adorable, and, I'm so glad they still do that at Mountain Park, and I'm appreciate so much your being here, but and sharing his story, but also you as a friend
Thank you.
and the the grace and presence and goodness that you bring into the world,
Thank you.
when you would have every right to be a curmudgeony, old,
Same
angry
to
person.
you.
Yeah.
I mean, all the things, the wonderful things that you've done for, all the different communities that your family has touched. And do you find though that you look at people who've experienced other sort of, hardships and you kind of look at them with sort of that knowing eye of like,
Mhm.
yep,
Yeah. I have a hard time with people who, I have such respect with people like you with the grace and perspective, and I have a really hard time with people who play the victim, like, "You would never understand, my life is so hard, and, you don't know what it's like." I have a hard time with
yeah,
that personality. I have a really hard time with that because 'cause I'm
yeah.
like, "You have no idea who you're talking to right now."
Right, exactly. Like I'm always like, oh.
Yeah.
Don't like, do I tell you? Do I drop that? That's the thing is sometimes
Mhm.
you don't want that way. Okay, I know you're wrapping up, but
Mhm.
and you can cut all this. But do you find well, it's different because losing a spouse, obviously you have children, people assume you were married. It's not a harder thing to say my husband not that it's easy to say your
Mhm.
husband passed away, but like when when we meet new people and they're like, "Oh, is Jack your only?"
Mhm.
For the
Mhm.
longest time, I did not know how to navigate that, and I
Yeah.
still have a hard time navigating that 10 years later, and I find it just sort of depends on what the situation is when I meet somebody. Like, if
Yeah.
it's somebody I'm meeting, I'm in a situation, I'm gonna meet them, but I'm never gonna see them again,
Right. Yeah.
then I don't correct, I don't say anything else.
Yeah.
But if it's a situation where I'm gonna be, like, working with somebody, then
Well,
I
because it's weird if you're then they find yeah, that's
like, I had a coworker who was like, "You always talk about Jack, but you keep saying my children." And so then I was like, "Okay, well, let me explain why."
uh-huh. Yeah.
Whatever. But they never came to me with the first question of like, "How many kids do you have?"
Right.
or whatever.
Well, and
Yeah.
it's weird because what what I find is, um, it is like an awkward "wah-wah" in the conversation, you know?
Right, and sometimes you just don't want that. It's not necessary.
Yeah, I always, like, apologize for it. I'm like, "Not to bring the conversation down, not to put a
That's
damper on the conversation."
absolute same. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and then they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and then you're like, "Thank you," and then,
And you're like, "No, it's okay," but it's not
"No,
okay, but it's
it's not
just it's
okay,
all
but
right
it's
for the
like,
situation. Like,
yeah,
yeah,
let's get back to the conversation now." Like,
right.
yeah, yeah,
Right.
it's so weird. It is weird. So, yeah, it's just a I don't know. Death is weird, and it shouldn't be because it happens to
Right,
everybody.
and I also find that I feel like I should know what to say to people when they lose somebody, and then I
Mhm.
find I still do the stupid, like, "How are you doing?" And I'm like,
Yeah,
"What the fuck?" Like, you
I
don't
know.
need to ask that,
I
like,
know that's
you
funny.
know how they're doing. They're doing, like, it's shitty.
Shitty, all of
It
it's shitty.
sucks.
I know. People ask me that all the time too. They're like, What how should I respond? What should I say?" And I'm like, "I don't know." These are the things that drive me crazy when people say it, but that might be the exact same thing that that person needs to hear,
Right,
you
that's a
know,
good
because
point, yeah,
everybody's so different. In the moment, they're different. They're the next moment, you know, you could say the same thing and they'll rip your head off. Like, who knows?
right.
Because we
And I
switch.
always feel like I wanna write, like, if I'm writing a card, like, "I hope I hope you find peace." And
Mhm.
it's just more like that internal piece that you can eventually because I found for the longest time, I couldn't stop moving. Like, I always had to, like,
Yeah.
constantly occupy my brain. So, like, I would be in the car and I'm listening to a podcast
Mhm.
constantly. Lying in bed, and if I'm not falling asleep, I'm counting. Like, whatever it
Mhm.
is so that my brain does not go to that place.
Mhm. Yeah,
Now
which
my brain can go to that place a little bit more easily, and I can be like, "Nope, I don't wanna be there,"
Mhm.
and I can go somewhere else.
Yeah.
But for the longest time, you're just constantly sort of
Mhm.
internally moving. You can't
Uh-huh.
stop.
Yeah. Yep, we're the same person.
Yeah,
That's exactly how I function. And of the same mind that it could always be worse, it could always be worse. I know we gotta wrap up, but I remember when John died, my sister-in-law actually we're not Jewish, obviously, and what she had me meet with a rabbi because she had a certain way she wanted the ceremony to look. And so I was like, "Fine, we'll talk." And so it was like somebody anyway, I don't even know why we were meeting with a rabbi, but the rabbi said to me, like, "How are you doing?" And I was like and this, of course, when everything was happening in Serbia was in the, headlines so much. And I go, "Well, I'm not being raped every day in a Serbian refugee camp, so could be worse." And she was just like, I'm like, "Can I go now?"
you're like, "You asked the question, I answered it."
Yeah.
That is really funny.
Could be worse.
They
Mhm.
went
Yep. And then I was like, "Bye. I'm going now." Yep.
right, that sounds like something that I would want to say, maybe not
Mhm.
actually say it, but want to
Mhm.
say, yes.
Yep. I said it.
Right, like, "You've got spares.
Yep.
Lucky
Yep.
you. If you
Yes.
lose one, you've got a couple more to
Yes.
go around."
That's right.
Stupid comment to make, so
I know, but there's truth in it. I have to say.
mhm.
It's what I hate to say. Well, thank you so much. This is
Thank
I'm
you. This
thank
was
you for
great.
being
Thank you, Pam, for thinking
thank
of
you
me.
for and getting to know Finn and getting to know you, and I just love it. I love you guys. So
Thank you.
you're
Thanks.
welcome. And thank you guys for listening to the Lost Love Stories. And if this conversation touched you, please share it with someone. You know, we all know people who have lost someone, and the stories just help. They help you get through the loss and figure out how to heal your heart to reclaim the joy in your life that they would all want us to have. So until next time, take care of yourself and take care of your hearts.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pam.